This is Between the Brackets, a Mediawiki podcast, episode 45, October 15th, 2019. Welcome to Between the Brackets. I'm Yaron Koren, and it's the 7th installment of BTB Digest, the only place online where you can find short highlights of people's long discussions about Mediawiki. It's not too often that you can say some place is the only place where you can go to find something, but I believe that's the case here until someone else starts doing it too. So here are some snippets from 5 recent episodes. I tried to pick out parts that were not too technical, but still give a sense for the kind of discussions we had. The first conversation for this episode was with Airy Magnien, who heads up the project to create OntoRail, which is a wiki that's planned to serve as a major global ontology/dictionary for railway-related terminology. He was also the general chair of the recent Semantic Mediawiki Conference, or SMWCon, which was held in Paris just a few weeks ago. Airy himself unfortunately couldn't attend the conference because he wasn't feeling well at the time, but I was there and I can say the conference was a big success. Anyway, when we talked back in June, Airy was in good spirits, and we talked quite a bit about OntoRail and various other projects related to standardization, past, present, and future. Here he is giving an anecdote that shows the real need for this kind of resource, even with all the standardization work that has happened until now.
Recently, we had a discussion going on with signalmen from China and from Europe, speaking some kind of continental English to understand each other. And then the discussion came about collision. It took 2 hours to notice that people were not understanding each other, because for the European signalman, collision means a following train hitting the train before him, or 2 trains having a nose-to-nose collision, for instance, on a single track, or a train coming from the side via a turnout and hitting the flank of another train. So it is train against train. Whereas for the Chinese colleagues, collision would mean encroaching the gauge. That is, the rolling stock hitting some fixed part. That was, of course, a very obvious difference. So it took only 2 hours to understand, they were not talking about the same thing. Right. Now, especially the field of signaling, the signaling concepts, even the signaling philosophies, if I may say so, are quite different. And basically, there's a French school, can be found also abroad. There is a German school that can be found abroad, especially in German-speaking countries and Norway, etc. And then there is also a British school and a couple of others. And this is much more important because, especially in signaling, what you would dream of is getting the whole system acceptance rationalized, the test periods shortened, the verification streamlined. And if the confusion starts with the vocabulary, you have a problem. And also a big economic problem. Not really a safety problem, because in the end, the certification will be done and will do what it is intended for. But the costs of the certification, the time to get certified, right, is simply becoming unbearable. So this is where, from the modeling, we went into the ontology discussion with, of course, as you mentioned already, Semantic Mediawiki as probably a tool of choice.
Later, we talked about plans for SMWCon, and it led to an interesting discussion about the need for better marketing of Mediawiki, a topic that's always close to my heart.
Even for building information modeling, which is quite industrial an endeavor, I had a discussion yesterday morning with a project manager on the Building Smart side, and we are all sharing the same analysis. The support for that kind of project in management and upper management is poor. When it comes to buying new computers, including laptops for all sorts of usage, not always very professional ones, money is flowing and it gets poured into Microsoft and the others, etc., absolutely no problem. And then you are asking a couple of million euro or dollars just to set up this building information modeling that is supposed to help you spare 5-10% maybe of your costs for every construction and maintenance site. And then somehow, all of a sudden, 2 million become a big amount. So here we are struggling at convincing people that these soft engineering is not, sorry to say, intellectual masturbation. It is really about doing good business and efficient business.
Sure.
We have the problem with BIM. Of course, we also have the problem with ontologies and semantic Mediawiki, because it sounds just a bit too esoteric to people. Fortunately, when I say, hey, look at Wikipedia, yes, that rings a bell, and people start to see the light.
Next, I talked to Bryan Davis, who works for the Wikimedia Foundation in the Technical Engagement Group. He's part of 2 teams within that group, Cloud Services, which he heads, and Developer Advocacy. One of the initiatives that Bryan has spearheaded is so-called librarization, in which parts of the Mediawiki software get spun off and turned into standalone software that can then be used outside of Mediawiki. I asked Bryan why that was useful, and here was his response.
I think the benefit for the outside world is increasing the number of high-quality PHP libraries that are out there. I'm gonna go ahead and just declaratively say that if it comes out of Mediawiki, it's probably high quality, sure. At least high security. So I think for the general PHP ecosystem, that's kind of an advantage. For Mediawiki as a software project, I think there's a couple potential advantages. One of them is kind of the decoupling thing that you mentioned, right? So as you move things into these separate libraries, you're forced to look at them and examine, like, is this particular class reaching across class boundaries and doing something funky with some other piece of code? And if so, how do we decouple those things and make them so that the part that we're pulling out as a library cannot really know about internal implementation details of other things that are inside Mediawiki.
Right.
And then I think an additional potential advantage, and I don't know that we've actually seen this hold true yet, but a potential advantage is that it should be easier to get contributions to smaller libraries that are more general purpose than to get contributions to Mediawiki as a big old monolith, right? If our pieces of our stuff are being used in more places by more people, then they should get looked at by more eyes, and we should get more bug reports, and we should get more help with fixing those bugs.
Bryan is also, or at least was at the time, involved in maintaining developer relations, which includes convincing new people to join the Mediawiki developer community. We talked about dealing with arguments and other negativity when they come up, which there's especially a risk of when all communication is done online via text. Here's some of what Bryan had to say about that.
So one of the things that we all kind of have to be aware of if we're trying to be socially humans developing software together, right, is that one of the things that varies a lot from person to person is what's a good word to use for it? Every word's going to be loaded in some way, but let's use the word tact, right? Yeah, okay. Like that there are, depending on how your brain works and how the world that you live in most of the time works, like you might be a person who wants everything just as unvarnished statement of facts with no decoration whatsoever, and so right. You try to model that in your own communications, and that can lead to conflict with people who live in a world where they want a lot of context along with statements, and they want to understand, what feelings things generate, and things that in the tech world are often called soft skills, right? Right. If you take a person who's thinking from that point of view and you put them together with a person who's thinking from the I would like most in life to be Spock point of view, and you put them together, you put the empath and the logician together, then you can end up with conflicts that neither side really wanted to happen, They just happened because of misunderstanding how the communications worked.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what we struggle with, as we're, I guess I'm using the royal we here, but there are other people who help me, like, as you're trying to moderate discussion and debate in an IRC channel or on a bug report or on a code review, that you can help people try to get past those problems, right? And not get stuck on that person is a jerk and I don't like the way that they talk to me.
After that was Yotam HaCohen, the co-founder and head of the Israeli Mediawiki-based consulting company OpenFox. I've heard various metaphors for enterprise Mediawiki. Some people have compared it to a spreadsheet or a blank page, but Yotam came up with one that is one of my favorites.
Mediawiki is a very surprising platform. And surprising because on the one side it looks somewhat old and not in line with contemporary design thinking and
right.
And on the other hand, it's very flexible. It has amazing API and capabilities, and you can do almost everything with MediaWiki. And therefore, I sales discussions with our customers, I used to say that MediaWiki is like clay, which you have this on your table and it looks like nothing. And when you start to use it, then it gets the structure you want it to get. And it's quite different from other platforms which do mostly what they're intended to do and nothing else.
Yotam also talked about something that's come up on this show before, which is the ability to do rapid deployment with MediaWiki, in this case on government projects.
On the projects, like the project I mentioned before about the Ministry of Education, we've set up the entire project in 3 months, which is like in governmental time thinking, it's like a miracle. Nothing. 3 months is like a moment. They never thought we can do anything like this. And we had a really fast MVP there, and it was a very great success. And it's all based on first. Everyone talks today about agile software development, but it's very difficult to create agile contracts with your clients, because the clients always want their project in fixed price. And if you want it in fixed price, then you first create a plan of everything that's going to be carried out.
Right.
And we need to create a very good sense of trust between us and the client in order to say, this is the wide scope of what we're going to do. We don't understand everything that's going to be carried out.
Yeah. You're not going to pretend that you can guess, down to the hour how much it's going to take and all that kind of thing.
Right. And we're together on this project. We'll do everything needed to make it work. And also on the other side, the customer gets a very powerful platform, which he pays only for very different parts in it because it's open source.
Right.
And so we manage out the project's financial scope in a way that the clients can say, okay, I understand. I know that there is a risk in here. I don't know exactly what I'm going to get, but I know you guys, and I saw other projects where you were involved in, and I think we can do it together.
Yeah. Yeah, and it works. People believe you.
It mostly works.
Yeah.
It in order to really work, it needs a very strong client.
Right.
We need someone on the organizational side that really wants this project to succeed. And when we have this, the person which is they're thinking knowledge and breathing knowledge, and he really wants this platform to work, then we can really fast create these quick wins. And when there's no one on the other side, it's very complex, because we also need to make everything on the client side to work, and much more complicated.
In late August, I talked to Lucas Billett, who works for the international ingredient manufacturing company Ingredion. Here he is talking about how he discovered and started using Mediawiki at around the same time I did, which was back in 2006.
So I started in 2004, and as like a young, engineer, I'm just getting into the role. I'm using like fundamental thermodynamics, industrial system design, looking at centrifuges, dryers, dust collectors, all that type of equipment, and which kept me pretty busy. And by 2006, I noticed anytime I wanted information, I'd be like calling vendors and really having to start from scratch. And I thought, man, this stands to be like improved like a lot. There is definitely room to do this a little bit easier, because I'm kind of getting used to Google, right, and instant access to information. At that point, you might even say getting like entitled to that, right? I kind of, I'm like, I don't want to do that. And so I thought, I remember one time looking up, I was trying to rename a bunch of files that were like some episodes of Friends or something like that for my wife, back in 2006. And I remember like, okay, so I Google it, give me a list of this. And what's the first thing that comes up, right? Is a Wikipedia article with exactly the information I'm looking for. And I remember stopping and thinking, like, how's this possible? How can a bunch of people that have nothing in common but an interest in the content itself create like this super usable repository, right? And I'm at work, and I got a bunch of people, we're like all tasked to work together, and we don't have anything that comes close. So that kind of started the wheels going of like, well, what is this, right? What is this thing? Oh, what is Mediawiki? Okay, what's Wikimedia Foundation? What is all this weird stuff? And so by 2008, I established the first installation kind of here, working on a little desktop under my desk.
And here's Lucas talking about Mediawiki as a so-called enterprise integration solution. I always wonder what Mediawiki's competitors are. Lucas, who has a lot of experience with this kind of software, has his own views.
Most companies, especially like mature companies like ours, we have the siloed compartments, right? And certainly through the mid 2000s up until now, all of those different silos have pursued software as a service models with all kinds of different vendors, right? And so if you're a reliability guy, you're using this package, right? And if you're a quality person, you're using this other one. If you're in accounting, you're over here, right? In finance, you're using this. If you're in engineering, you're going to use that. So there's very few holistic, like comprehensive, here's everything you want to know about this one thing. So that's I've never seen anything like it, really.
Wow. Okay. That's really good to know, actually. Yeah, I always wondered about that. Obviously, I try to sometimes market Mediawiki as I call it an enterprise integration hub.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is, like, or what it can be used for.
Yeah, but I never know whether what we're competing with. But maybe.
Right. Well, and I don't know what you are competing with. I mean, to an extent, right? There are available like SharePoint and Power BI type plugins to try to talk to that same data, right?
Yeah.
But show me one that lets the end user go in there and monkey with it.
Yeah.
Right? This is uncharted territory, and it's quite exciting.
And for the final interview for this episode, I talked to Derk-Jan Hartman, otherwise known as DJ or The DJ, who is a volunteer Mediawiki developer, and I'm pretty sure is still the only person on this program who's never benefited financially from Mediawiki in one way or another. Not that he couldn't, it's just that he doesn't choose to. One big area of expertise for him is online video. Here he is talking about the challenges of getting his code for updating Mediawiki's handling of video into the timed media handler extension. I think it serves as a microcosm for the special challenges that Mediawiki developers face in getting their code ready for production.
So we had to create a way to get that old content into a newer form, which is supported by browsers, or at least by most browsers. And something like that can sometimes takes a long time, especially for a volunteer like me.
Well,
when you don't have the full machine of Wikimedia behind you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. On the other hand, sometimes development can move faster if it's just one person.
Yes. So, well, I mean, this is a typical example to some degree of that. Like, it took me a weekend at a hackathon to create the first version of that video player, and it's taken me 4 years to get it deployed on Wikimedia.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Right. So it's one of those things where if this is also what I like doing. I like picking things that the foundation is actually not working on and exploring that and trying to see if we can bring value there. But it's basically a death trap for myself sometimes, because when you don't have the full support of a lot of employees, some of these technologies can be pretty hard to roll out to the Wikimedia websites. It's a big thing that we all are using with Wikipedia, and all the different versions of it, especially. You have to take in a lot of different constraints that as an outside developer you might sometimes not take into account.
So I mean, what accounts for that 4-year delay? Is it just a matter of getting the software, deployment ready?
It's multiple things. It's getting it deployment ready, getting the quality to the level that is required with translations and all these things, right?
Sure.
Something that we don't forego in Wikimedia, but in many situations where you will personally develop something for yourself, you would just okay, let's just roll with this and deal with all the problems later. That's simply not possible in Wikimedia. Other things have been like trying to agree with multiple people on what is this the next thing? Are we going this direction? Do we want to use Video.js, or do we want to use something else? And just trying to get an agreement on that is already a long process. And then, especially like I was saying, changing the HTML format, and suddenly you have the parser, and then we introduced a new parser, Parsoid. So suddenly you need to get agreement with 2 parsers instead of one.
Oh yeah, right.
Which are split over multiple teams at the foundation. Fun things like that.
Yeah, but you've gotten everyone to agree now. I mean,
I think that we've sort of reached the point where everybody is this is the best we can do with no dedicated team of the foundation. Because there's no team at the foundation working specifically on multimedia elements. This is mostly, even with the foundation employees that are now contributing to this, it's either a volunteer effort, or it's Bryan Faber, who's the one other person working on this, and who's actually works on this with the permission of the foundation out of his day job. But it can be a little bit hard sometimes to move that machine forward.
And that's it for this installment of BTB Digest. I hope you enjoyed the clips, and I'll see you next time with an all-new guest.